Joining me now live are Labor MP Amanda Rishworth and Liberal MP Julian Simmonds. Hello to you both. Let's get straight into it. Julian, I want to start with you. Greater Brisbane has now gone into a 3-day lockdown due to new COVID cases. You are in Brisbane. Do you think that this was the appropriate response?
Well, look, good to be with you. I'm not privy to the medical advice that has led to the lockdown, so I hope that it's there to justify it, and I hope this is what's needed to get on top of these cases. We saw on the weekend some research to say that 1 in 7 Australians were heading to Queensland for the Easter holidays. Was going to be a $1 billion injection into our economy, which is so needed for our tourism and hospitality industries at the moment. And I think the lockdown, regardless of whether it only lasts 3 days or longer, is going to dent some confidence for those Easter holidays. So I hope that this is what we need to get on, that Queensland Health is to get on top of these cases.
Well, denting confidence before Easter, people's travel plans have been thrown into disarray. JobKeeper subsidy has now ended, Julian. Does it show that the subsidy perhaps ended too quickly? Because these businesses, they're now closed for 3 days and emerging with no government support.
Oh no, I think JobKeeper has certainly done what it was intended to do. It saved 700,000 jobs and it's got the unemployment rate back to where there are more jobs now than before the pandemic. So it's right for that nationwide program to end. But that's not the end of government support. There is plenty of support out there for businesses still, like the instant asset write-off and like the wage subsidy, and there'll be more targeted support if it's necessary. So this is not a set and forget policy. We've shown that throughout the pandemic, and there's plenty of support still out there for those businesses.
Amanda, in terms of the 3-day lockdown now in Brisbane, when do these lockdowns end? When do they end? We now have a vaccine rollout. The program is continuing. At what point do we say that lockdowns should cease to exist?
Well, unfortunately, why you've got such a low rate of the population vaccinated, it is not a time where you can get rid of the health measures. Certainly when we looked and hoped that, well, the government said there'd be 4 million people vaccinated by the end of March, and we may get to 300,000, maybe a little over 300,000 people. We are far from the ability to relax, unfortunately, many of those control measures when it comes to the pandemic. But of course, what this lockdown has shown is that we are far from out of the woods yet when it comes to the pandemic, and that the government has turned off the JobKeeper program way too early. They said that the job is done. Well, the job clearly isn't done when we're still seeing the spread of COVID, and then as a result of no fault of their own, businesses just can't get back to normal. And whether it's a lockdown or whether indeed it's just the social distancing that still needs to be enforced, this is affecting businesses, and the government has been too premature to say that there's no help for them. And I make the point that there are many businesses falling through the cracks when it comes to government support. They're not getting government support, and as the Treasury predicts, many people will lose their jobs as a result.
Well, the government has always maintained, Amanda, that the subsidy can't go on forever. What was the alternative then in cancelling it?
Well, of course it can't go on forever. It was to help businesses get through the pandemic. But as we've seen in Brisbane and as we see now, the vaccine has not been rolled out to the types of levels that are needed to make sure the community is safe. So whether you look at the vaccine rollout, whether you look at this latest lockdown in Brisbane, we are still in the midst of a pandemic, and the government needs to calibrate their policy settings to recognise that. And I just don't think they have.